All right, here we are at the translation of Lucius Marcius Memor on stage 21 of Cambridge Latin. So let's jump into it. Oppidum aquae solis parvum erat. So the town of Aquasulus was small. All right, so both of these, oppidum and parvum, are in the nominative case. They're neuters linked by this imperfect tense copulate verb. Aquasulus is also in the nominative to match the nominativeness of oppidum. So remember that if you get town and then its name, it's going to also be in the same case as the town. Aquae is a nominative plural because a lot of towns are in the plural, oddly enough. So the town of Aquasulus was small. The baths were large. You have to reuse erat. Erat there, so the baths were large. Procurator thermarum erat Lucius Marcius Memor. All right, so the overseer or the manager of the baths was Lucius Marcius Memor. Remember that the genitives that we have in this stage are descriptive. So this is describing what he is manager of, but is specifically a subset of that type of genitive called the objective genitive, which you don't really need to remember at this stage, but later on in Latin will be important. So the manager of the baths was Lucius Marcius Memor. And then we've got two things in apposition to that name, notissimus haruspex and homo obesus et ignavis, a very well-known haruspex, which is it's a soothsayer, someone who could tell the fortunes and the future by sacrificing animals and looking at their livers in particular, and a man, fat and lazy, right? We get the word obese from obesus right there. So both haruspex and homo are in apposition to memor, and therefore we've got two appositional phrases. All righty. Quamquam iam tertia ora erat, memor in cubiculo ebrius dormiebat. Although already the third hour it was. That's what it literally says. A little bit better would be, although it was already the third hour, although it was already 3 o'clock, Memor was sleeping, dormiebat, drunk. That's a nominative adjective, but we'll translate it adverbially as drunkenly. He was sleeping drunkenly in the bedroom. All right, so altogether, although it was already 3 o'clock, Memor was sleeping drunkenly in the bedroom. Cephalus, the libertus haruspicis, memorem excitare temptabat. So Cephalus, and then we've got another appositional phrase, the freedman of the soothsayer, was attempting, imperfect tense, complementary infinitive, to arouse, to wake up, memor. So memor is a direct object of that infinitive. Domine, domine, clamabat, he was shouting, master, master. These are vocatives right there. The haruspex, graviter dormiens, ni responded. So the haruspex, sleeping heavily, responded nothing, or he said nothing. Dormiens is a present active participle. So this is a participial phrase that's describing haruspex. Dominus nimium vini russus bibit, sibi dixit libertus. So the master drank too much wine again. So russus is an adverb there. And then nimium is a quantity word. It's the direct object of bibit, although in some cases you will see it used adverbially. And since it's a quantity word, usually the amount of quantity, even though we say amount of something, in Latin will be a genitive. So it's literally too much of wine, but it doesn't really make sense to describe it in that way here. So we'll just say too much wine. And then the freedman said to himself. That's a dative reflexive pronoun. Domine, sorge, master, get up. So vocative and imperative. Orator est, it is 3 o'clock. Memor a liberto tannim excitatus unum oculum aperuit. Memor, having been woken up by the slave at last, opened one eye. Okay, so everything between those two commas is a perfect passive participial phrase. So it's a participial phrase, so it's describing memor, which is why these are both in the nominative. And that's why we're going to translate it as having been woken up. And then we've got this ablative agent right here. Tandem is an adverb. All right, aperuit, so he opened one eye. Aperuit, we get the word aperture from that, like a camera aperture. Fermii plus vini inquit, tum abi. Okay, so bring to me more of wine, he said, then go away. All right, so we'll have to fix that up a little bit. Fer and abi are both singular imperatives. Tum is going to be an adverb, but it's more or less acting as a conjunction there. There's a little bit of event horizon between adverbs and conjunctions sometimes. Anyway, so bring to me. So you can just say, bring me more wine. Again, we've got another quantity word being described by a genitive. So bring me more wine, he said, then go away. Domine domine, neces est tibi sorgere inquit cephalus. So more vocatives. Master, master, it is necessary for you to get up, right? We know that construction from many chapters ago, that adjective plus est plus dative pronoun plus infinitive. So it is necessary for you to rise or to get up, said Cephalus. Cur me vexas cephale. Why? There we go. We've got an interrogative adjective or adverb there. Why are you vexas? Why are you troubling me? Cephalus, that's a vocative right there. Why are you troubling me? Why are you bothering me? Inquit Memor, said Memor, cor tu rem administrare ipse non potes. Okay, so why are you potes, not potes? Why are you not able to administrare? Why are you, yourself not able to administrate the rem, the business? Why are you not able to look after this business, you yourself? Ipse is going to be an intensive pronoun right there. All right. Rem huius modi administrare non possum. I am not able to look after business, rem, huius modi, of this manner. Right? So rem is sort of indefinite, and that's why we're going to have it of this manner here. So it's describing. Remember, descriptive genitives are one of the most important new additions to this chapter, although we have seen them a little bit before. So I'm not able to look after business of this kind, of this sort, responded the freedman, responded Libertus, sunt multi servi, multi fabri, qui mandata procuratores expectant. Okay, there are many slaves, many craftsmen who are waiting for the directives, mandates, orders of the manager. So probably the better way to translate this, or a little bit more literally, not literally, a little bit more fluidly, would be there are many slaves and many craftsmen who are waiting for the manager's orders. Mandata is a neuter accusative plural. Remember that, so mandatum would be the singular, and then in the plural, neuters are always the same. So they're in the nominative and the accusative are always going to be the same form. So mandatum and mandatum are both nominative and accusative. Mandata and mandata are both nominative and accusative plurals. So they're waiting for the orders. All right. Te expectant architectus ipse. The architect himself, another intensive pronoun, is waiting for you, accusative direct object. And then this architect is described by this appositional phrase, a vir magnae dignitatis, a man of great dignitas, of great dignity. So this man's character is being described by this descriptive genitive, and dignitas is a very, very important cultural idea. It was sort of like social capital. The more dignitas you had, the more standing you had in society. The te expectant agroti ad sunt milites ab hostibus vulnerati. So the sick people, agroti, are waiting for you. There are soldiers present, ad sunt, soldiers vulnerati, having been wounded by the enemies. Okay, so milites is being described by this participial phrase, and this is a perfect passive participle, and it is going with this ablative of agent, having been wounded by the enemies. Ad sunt non nulli mercatores, quos arces ivisti. So there are non nulli, not now, which means not know means there are few. There are a few merchants present whom I have summoned. That's a perfect tense verb. This is a relative clause describing those merchants. There are a few merchants whom I have summoned. Tu rem ipse administrare debes. You yourself ought to administrate, ought to look after this business, right? So we're really, really leaning into those intensive pronouns right there. Okay, there's a second part to this. Let's go to the next page. There we go. Cool. All righty. So numquam desinit labor. Labor, work, never, numquam desinit, stops. The work never ends is what he's saying. Clamavit Memor, exclaimed Memor. Quam festus sum, how tired I am. All right, so quam is being used adverbially here, but ordinarily it would be some sort of clause of comparison that's probably derived from, so some sort of adverbial clause, but we'll just translate it as how tired I am. Cur ad hunc populum barbarum unquam veni. Why, interrogative adverb, why did I ever come? So adverb here and veni is come. Why did I ever come? Ad hunc populum barbarum, to this, demonstrative pronoun, barbaric populace, to this savage people. Again, we can't use the modern standards of what barbarism means. Obviously, it's not a very nice thing to say. It was a very common thing to say in the ancient world, and it didn't have the same type of weight that it did today. It was a much more common thing. Barbara just more or less meant foreigners. So why did I go to this foreign people? All right, vita mea est dura. My life is hard or difficult. We get the word durable from this. And we can tell that these are both in the nominative because this copulate est. Nam, for, in Britannia ad magnus honores ascendere non possum. For, I am not able, ascendere, to ascend, to climb, ad magnus honores, to high honors, to great honors in Britannia, in Britain. So there's this thing in Roman culture called the cursus honorum. Cursus honorum is the official pathway of social status that the average, specifically upper class or aspiring upper class Roman would try to pass through. And the more friendships with specifically respectable and higher class people that you earned, something called the patron-client relationship, the more likely you were to gain access to higher status jobs, essentially, and therefore higher status in society as a whole. So that's what he's complaining about there. Necesse est mihi viros potentis colere. It is necessary for me to cultivate powerful men. Colere doesn't mean cultivate like he's not going to grow them in his garden. It means to cultivate friendships with. So you could probably translate this as befriend. It is necessary for me to befriend powerful men, right? Ew, oh no. In hoc insula, in this island, in hoc insula sunt pauci viri potentis pauci clari. So in this island, there are sunt pauci viri potentis, there are a few powerful men. There are a few powerful men, and we'll add an and there. Few famous men. I'll have to reuse the idea of viri. So we'll translate that all together. Alas, there are few powerful men, few famous men in this island. Hoc is a demonstrative pronoun, by the way. And we get the word insular from that. It means like insulation means it's separated from others. Okay. Quid vis me facere, memor? In quid libertus, what do you want me to do? Complementary infinitive with a form of volo. Memor asked the freedman. Ubio is going to be the word that introduces something called, it's an indirect command, and indirect commands with ubio will take an infinitive. So you can think of it kind of like in a complementary infinitive. So I order you to send everyone away. Now notice here, this is an important point of grammar, guys. This dimitere is taking two accusatives. So it's taking te and omnes. So I'm ordering you is acting as the subject of dimitere, and omnes is acting as the direct object of dimitere. This is something that happens a lot. So you have to sort of get used to it. And usually the thing that's acting as the subject of that infinitive will come first. The thing that's acting as the object will come second. So it wouldn't make sense if you were saying I am ordering everyone to send you away. So try and rely on a little bit of word order, and also the thing that makes the most sense in the passage, right? So this is very common, and this use of the accusative we haven't technically seen before. We haven't seen much before, I should say. It has come up a little bit before. This is called the accusative subject of the infinitive, and this is going to still be the accusative direct object of that infinitive. So I order you to send away everybody. Clamavit memor, exclaimed memor, noli me iterum vexare. Noli, remember that noli introduces negative commands. Do not, so it's a form of nolo, do not, and then it will take a complementary infinitive of vexare. Do not annoy me, iterum, that is an adverb. Don't annoy me again. Memor, postquam haec verba dixit, statim abdormivit. Memor, after he said these words, immediately went back to sleep. or fell asleep. All right. Verba, haik verba is again an accusative plural neuter. Verbum is the singular, so therefore verba is the plural. And postquam de dixit is a temporal clause. Statim is another adverb. So Memor, after he spoke these words, when he fell asleep. Cephalus adormino errato teritus invitus exit. Cephalus, having been terrified by the angry master, unwillingly left. Okay, so everything between those two commas is a participial phrase. Teritus is a past participle. Domino no irato is an ablative of agent. Unvitus is an adjective that's matching in the case of Cephalus in the nominative, but we're translating adverbally. And exit is a perfect tense verb. In termis plurimus homines invenit vehementer clamantes et memorem absentum vituperantes. There's a grammar note here because this is actually a fairly tricky sentence if you really think about the grammar. You can translate it easily left to right, but the grammar is a little bit more tricky when you actually start to piece it apart. We'll just translate it, and then I'll explain what the grammar is. So in the baths, many men he found vehemently, angrily shouting, and the absent Memor cursing. So we'll fix that up and put it into proper English word order. He found many men in the baths angrily shouting and cursing absent Memor, the absent Memor, or Memor being absent, I guess you could say. So let's talk about why the grammar is difficult. So in Wayne, it has this direct object of homines, and that is being described by two separate participles. They're both present active participles, clamantes and vituperantes. So the men, and what are the men doing? They're shouting. They're shouting how? They're shouting angrily, and they're also cursing, vituperantes. And who are they cursing? The direct object of this present active participle is memorem. So they're cursing the direct object, memor, not the direct object of when it, it's the direct object of the participle. So they're cursing memor, and then memor himself is also being described by another participle, the memor being absent. So it's another present active participle. It's a little bit difficult to translate in English. That's why I'm translating it as being absent. But you could also just translate it as the absent memor. It's kind of awkward to translate in English, but it makes perfect sense in Latin. All right, the thing that makes this difficult is that we've got two present active participles describing homines, and one present active participle takes a direct object, which itself is described by another present active participle. All right, last sentence, eos omnes Cephalus demisit. Cephalus sent away all those guys. Eos is a demonstrative pronoun from id, and it is referring back to the last noun, that last direct object, I should say, from the previous sentence. So it's pointing back. I think it might be the word epideictic, if I remember correctly. There's so many words in Latin and Greek studies, but it's pointing back to the last individuals that we're referring to. That's why eos is used there. All righty, that is that. I will see you in the next translation.